Your internal communication strategy tries to ensure that everyone in the business is aligned to the vision, mission, values, and strategic objectives. Ideally, you want the culture of your organization to reflect the values established to guide the business decision-making process. How you do best implement the right level of communication to deliver on objectives outlined on the key slide. Key to any strategy is to have leaders regularly interacting with employees. In a brick and mortar business, this can be done by team meetings, engagement surveys, town halls, and managing by walking around. My thoughts on the importance of these forms of dialogue between leaders and employees were shaped by my time at Procter & Gamble. In our manufacturing facilities, we overlapped our production crews by 30 minutes so the teams could have time away from the machines to dialogue with their managers on a wide variety of issues: cost, quality, performance. At P&G, it was commonplace for the plant manager and other leaders to be out on the production floor interacting with frontline employees, understanding needs and issues so that they can use that information to guide future decisions and direction for the entire organization. Town hall meetings also allowed leaders to interact with employees and use those sessions to demonstrate the importance of using organizational values to shape the decisions being taken and the direction being set. As a P&G employee, I was engaged because I felt my input was considered. Others were interested in what I felt, and in some cases, they acted on what I said. But more importantly, I felt being listened to was the key to my level of engagement.
My first day as interim CEO at an independent school was the very day those doors of that school closed. It so happened the school was not technologically savvy, so it really upped the ante on the requirement of the outputs of this 26-person team. So along the 17 weeks where I was assisting in the leadership there, or being their leader collaboratively, there were things that we did which will sound very mundane to you. They are the things that we would do to engage. But I think the ante is up during COVID, and this is why these particularly simple things took on such importance. One was the weekly meeting, done, of course, on Zoom. It was meant to be predictable. A time flow was sent out in advance. People knew what the drill was and that they were expected to be there, of course. We ensured and invited participation by all, and there were 3 elements that were always apparent. The first one was the question, the check-in, how are you? And the inference there is, how are you doing? I quote Peter Aceto, leadership guru, I may say, the former CEO of Tangerine, with whom I worked for several years. I admire his work very much, and he's recently blogged about making business kind again. And he uses the words compassion and empathy, and you'll read those words regularly now in the work that surrounds engagement during the time of COVID. So you want to know how people are. You also want to know what they're doing that they need help with, because that will invite collaboration. It also invites accountability, self-responsibility, and the fact that everyone will know what other people are up to. Sometimes it's hard to know. If we were in the same building, we could walk down the hallway, or we would see people at the proverbial water cooler, but we're in sometimes now even different cities working, and we're not sure what's going on when we're not with our colleagues. The last set of 3 questions I hold with great respect and use with great rigor. They are, in your practice, regardless of what you're doing, what is working, what is challenging, and what do you need? Next slide reminds us to have individual meetings. I like them, and I'm sure you would agree, them to be predictable and regular. For me, once a week, and the same drill. How are you? How are you doing? That invites the question. A person would go as deep with that as they needed to be. I will report that I do have experience of and evidence of people having to leave on disability, and sometimes even leaving their roles because COVID has placed such restrictions on their ability or difficulty on their ability to manage. The second question again, what do you need help with? What are you involved in? And the 3 together, what's working, what's challenging, and what do you need? The third thing I would draw attention to is something we know and Mike has addressed already, is The mission, the vision, and the values, which hopefully in any healthy organization is something that is perceptible, is palpable in the behaviors of individuals. However, that is not always the case. But more specifically during COVID, I ask you to invite you with your direct reports to consider the relevance of the mission, the vision, and the values. Do you need to either reassess, refine, or redefine for this extraordinary period what your mission might be?
Our second key engagement driver is performance management. Regular discussions with your employees naturally keeps them engaged. Understanding what they are doing, how that supports the organization's objectives, and helping them to eliminate barriers, preventing them from delivering the results that are expected is beneficial for both the employees and the businesses. I recently worked with a client who impressed me as the consultant with their approach to performance reviews. Every 6 months, they sit down to formally review the employee's performance. They compare what was expected to be accomplished with what was accomplished. They talk about the issues that may have impacted the results and what can be done to remove any barriers preventing the achievement of the results. And together, they build a focus for the next 6 months. They also use these discussions to recognize the employee, and in the spring, provide a base salary increase, and in the fall, a bonus adjustment depending upon the results achieved by the individual. This organization has low turnover, high customer satisfaction, and very solid working relationships between the owners and the employees. More proof that engagement does lead to better results.
I think in the world of performance, we have evidence now of everything from performance bleeding or being relaxed into more conversational coaching sessions. Just recently, I heard of an organization who is pivoting from focusing on performance to development. But in my experience as a leadership consultant over the past 2 decades, among the things I hold great value in is a 360-degree feedback mechanism. Typically, the assessment tool would allow the individual themselves to assess their own performance against an identified group of leadership behaviors or competencies. Also, other stakeholders would be their direct reports, if they had them, their peers, and their leader or leaders if there was more than one. You can customize a 360 so that just even the individual, him or herself, is assessing themselves, their behavior, or any one of those stakeholder groups as well. The beauty of 360 feedback mechanisms is their science. They afford data that cannot be argued with. They say data doesn't lie, and it's particularly relevant for high achievers, many with which many I have worked, often who disagree with feedback that is qualitative, but quantitative feedback is actually quite irrefutable. This tool also allows individuals to see the gaps between where they may have appeared according to their stakeholders and where they are seen to want to be by the senior leadership team, their manager, or other stakeholders. So it allows an opportunity for coaching and then reassessment along the way. The other beauty of a 360 is it's helpful in assessing high potentials and also creating high outcome project goals, whereby individuals can not only deliver outcomes, but also can be demonstrating these behaviors, which then would help them to move forward when they are reassessed in the future.
Our final driver to discuss in this webinar is learning and development. In the book titled Good to Great, Jim Collins coined the phrase, having the right person in the right seat. During my time at IBM, I was impressed with how they supported this concept for their 20,000 Canadian employees. IBM had 5 certified career coaches who were tasked with helping employees understand their strengths and abilities. The coaches would then work with the employees to find a match within job opportunities available across the Canadian company. Employees placed through this process were more engaged and higher contributors to the business. At P&G, we focused on the future by asking employees and their direct supervisor to establish a career path of assignments that you, as the employee, desired to be considered for. Working directly with your supervisor, you planned out the opportunities and skill development that was required to best prepare you for your next assignment. For smaller businesses that may not have the ability to build career paths for many of the employees, there still needs to be a focus on skill development to help employees to be able to do their current jobs more efficiently.
One is it was an experience I had just a few weeks ago with a nurse at a local hospital. I was speaking to her about her role and why she'd chosen that particular hospital. This was a Saturday night late, and she said, well, among the reasons is because they value learning and development. So I know I have a very strong future here and I can grow with this organization. So there is science that proves that individuals will choose one job over another, even if the salary is higher, if they know that they can learn and grow within an organization. So I have to tell you, I really am a devotee of learning and development and have spent 20 years in this discipline. I would speak also to this fact. The Wharton School of Business Executive Doctorate in Education has been developed to allow individuals to be Chief Learning Officer, and that is to sit at the C-suite with the decision makers, the other C executives who are driving strategy. And the intent there is that the Chief Learning Officer helps to translate strategy into behavior. So really, that is what learning and development is. And it is an extremely important function within any organization. And it is very much valued by, I would say, each and every individual in an organization.